everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Precious Robins with Precious Pythons. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I will be doing a video showing how I am going to be building a holding tank for some feeder rodents. So to give a little bit of background as to why I'm doing this and why I thought it was a good idea to pretty much document it. For a really long time, I was feeding frozen thawed rodents. I thought it was, well, at the time, it was definitely the better option for me. My collection was a lot smaller, and I was really just really worried about feeding live rodents to my snakes in fear of injury. So obviously now, I think I'm approaching maybe like 60 snakes or so, and feeding 60 individual frozen thawed rodents just isn't ideal for my feeding days. That can take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, and so I no longer want to heat up rats. So I'm feeding live. Now obviously with feeding live, there is a dilemma with having to pick up rodents every single week. So I usually go and buy my rodents heavy, so that it'll last me quite a bit, maybe 1 to 2 weeks, and then throughout the week I have extra feeders and I can feed off to animals who either refused food or I know eat a little bit more frequently. So I wanted to make this video because I know that there are, of course, breeders out there that deal with picky eaters when it comes to ball pythons. And if you're feeding live and you're just like a hobbyist or a small breeder and you're not breeding your own rodents, there is that dilemma of what do I do with this rat after it is refused. So, you know, my biggest thing when it comes to my collection is in order to have a healthy collection, you have to have healthy feeders, you know? So if I'm holding rats for a temporary amount of time, I want to feed them. I want to make sure they're getting water. I want to make sure that they're as nourished and happy as possible. So this is why I have holding tanks or tubs for my feeders. And that's so that while they're waiting for culling day, they can be in a very happy, nourished environment. So here is a tank that I made, and there are ASFs in this right now. And I'm sorry if I'm like sniveling and stuff. I'm actually allergic to rodents, so being in here with the rodents sometimes bothers my allergies. But obviously I have this top. ASFs are jumpy, smart little creatures, okay? So I obviously wanted to make a top. When it comes to rats, I have a rat bin up here just like this, and it doesn't have a top. You know, the rats don't really climb the, you know, things inside or, you know, try to really escape. But the ASFs are a different story. Same with mice. So I'm going to show you how I built this, and I'm going to use the rated top example. So stay tuned. I'll get a close up of what the inside looks like, and you're not going to want to miss this video. Okay, so here's what the inside looks like. I obviously have a food bowl over here, a water bottle as well. So there are 5 rodents in here right now. When I first picked up these ASF, I picked up 25, I believe. And I've been just feeding them off over the last 2 weeks or so. So obviously when it's time to get some more, I will get more. And I will slowly feed them off, but in the meantime, they'll be in this holding tank. They'll be watered, they'll be fed, and they'll be happy. When I do get a mixture of them, obviously there are a lot of males and females both in the enclosure, so I try to feed off the males first to prevent any type of fighting or injury. All right, so now that you guys know exactly what the inside looks like, I'm going to tell you and show you the materials that you'll need to do this build. So it's a very, very little modification. This is going to be like 5-10 minutes. It's very simple, very easy. Obviously, you saw the inside. There's not any like super great detail that's going to go into this. You'll need a large tub. Depending on the type of rodents that you're doing this for, you may not have to have a large tub. If you're doing ASFs, I would absolutely recommend that it be very deep. They do jump, and they jump very high. They hop, and they're extremely fast. So if they escape, say goodbye to that little ASF. But ASF's a deep tub. This is 18 gallons, 68 liters. If they're mice, mice are very, very smart as well. You know, they climb, they can escape out of things very easily. They can fit through very small holes. So if you can do a deep tub for mice, I would absolutely recommend that as well. Rats are a different story. The rats that I have, they're also in a tub this size, but they don't really climb very much. And, you know, so, you know, you could do a deep tub, or you could do like a more shallow tub if you're sure that you can seal it and there aren't any entries that they can come out of. But I would just recommend a deeper tub for everything. It just helps with a little bit of peace of mind. So you'll also need tin snips. This is to cut the mesh wire that you'll be using to grate the top. So I have already cut out my piece here, so I'll be using this for this top. You'll also need a drill, a pocket knife, and a very, very strong hot glue gun. Oh, and of course you will need a water bottle. Now for the water bottle, I do recommend a top fill so that you don't have to continue to take it out and remove it to fill it up. You can just twist off the top, pour water inside while it's still attached to the actual tub. You'll also want to get one with a hook holder, you know, which is this. It's very convenient. This is how you're going to attach your water bottle to your tub, and it's by drilling a hole. It makes it super convenient, so I would just recommend that you get one with a hook holder, or this build won't work for you. So water bottle, top fill, and cage holder. So the first thing that we'll do is drill our hole. You can pretty much put the water bottle anywhere on the inside of the tub, but I like to do it in the corner. I don't know why. I just like to do it in the corner. I just think it looks better. These tubs here have like the little ridge for you to hold on to when you're picking it up. So I like to make sure that this part is below this ridge. So I'm gonna drill below there. But honestly, you can drill at any height. You just wanna make sure that when you do put the water bottle in, that it is at a height that they can reach when they're wanting to go for water. So just make sure it's not too high, and of course not too low. Okay, so I'm putting my water bottle and the cage holder through the drilled hole. And as you can see on the other side, I have a place where I can attach the other portion of the cage holder, and I'm just twisting it on. And it gets pretty tight and sturdy, so this is awesome. I absolutely love this water bottle. I love this. So that's not going anywhere. Now if you were to go to fill the water bottle, you just have to twist off the top, pour water inside, instead of actually detaching the water bottle. Okay, so now that the water bottle is attached, we're going to move on to the next part of this modification, which is grading the top. I'm pretty much halfway done with this. Like I said, this is not a very complicated modification or build at all. Very simple, very quick and easy to do. So I already have my cutout piece of mesh wire. It's very bendable. It's the one I get all the time. I can't remember if it's a 1/4 inch. I'll have to find that out and either put it in the description or put it in this video. But you can get it at any hardware store. It comes in a roll like I showed at the beginning of the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this piece that I cut out covers the entire top of the graded portion. So I'm going to make some marks to guide myself. Okay, so now that I have my guide, make sure it that's not gonna work. I did that completely wrong. Okay, let's retry this. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm gonna do that over. I'm sorry guys, it's still early. Bear with me. Okay, so this is gonna have a bunch of markings on it, unfortunately. It's not gonna look as clean, but I'm gonna probably cover it up with some aluminum foil tape anyways. So, this is where your pocket knife comes in handy. Now, in order to cut this is a pretty thick plastic. It's not thick to the point where it will crack, just to where you have to choose wisely as what you cut it with. I'm gonna score it until it breaks through with this pocket knife. That's what I've found to be easiest. I think you would also be able to get a soldering iron to burn it until it breaks. So. Or melts, honestly. So I'm gonna use the pocket knife, but a pocket knife or soldering iron would be sufficient for this process, as part of the process. All right, so I've cut my hole. I only had to score each side maybe 3 or 4 times to break it open. So it was very easy, very simple, you know, nothing complicated. I'm gonna make sure this fits on here. And it's perfect. And like I said, to cover up this ugliness, I will probably be putting some aluminum foil tape on it. If the mesh wire that you have isn't too thick, which it shouldn't be anyways, because you want to make sure that it can be secured with your heat, your glue and your heat gun, you might be able to put some aluminum foil tape on this as well to secure it, because it's not like there's a snake going in here. You just need to make sure that a rat cannot break or climb through this grate, and it needs to be strong enough. I think aluminum foil tape probably is strong enough for that. Like I said, rats are not very strong. They're just very resourceful. So if you don't have a hot glue gun, you can use that, and you want to make sure that they have adequate ventilation. My biggest thing with wanting to make sure there's a vent at the top when it comes to these rats, if I'm going to cover them up, is they do eat and drink a lot, which obviously will result in them peeing and pooping a lot. And if you have this covered to prevent escape and there's not adequate ventilation, obviously they can suffocate. And even if you were to maybe poke some holes thinking that that's adequate ventilation, you want to make sure that they can't be affected by the ammonia in their urine. So whatever way you use to secure it, just make sure they have adequate ventilation and that they can't break through this barrier. But I'm going to use hot glue. So that's it, you guys. You add some bedding and a bowl of food, add some water to that water bottle, and you have a temporary holding tub for your rodents. Now, before I close out this video, I do want to say that one day I do want to and plan on breeding my own rodents. I actually kind of started here recently, just kind of as an experiment with some mice. And the reason why I chose mice to start off with, it's just one colony that I'm doing right now, was specifically for some of the hatchlings that I would hatch out that wanted mouse hoppers instead of rat pups. So I decided to breed my own for the anticipation of getting clutches and having to feed off mouse hoppers, which has really worked out really well. And I'll show the enclosure that I have them set up in too, just in case anybody is again, interested in maybe breeding a small colony of mice. But I'm glad I started doing this now because I wanted to experiment with it before I moved into my house. I never want to, I'm in an apartment right now and I have these ASFs and I have mice, and at any point in time I'll have 10 to 15 rats that weren't fed off during feeding time, and I'm saving them for next week or a few days. But I wanted to test out the smell, right? And obviously, I think anybody would agree that if you are a person in a certain environment and there's a smell, over time you kind of get used to the smell. So I didn't want that to happen to me if I started breeding in my new house. I do not want to deal with the smell, which is why I want eventually my own building for both the snakes and the rats. Obviously the snakes don't produce any kind of smell, but with the rodents, they do. So every now and then I'll have a family member come over and kind of sniff out my house to see if they can smell or detect any rodents. And so far it's been really great. But obviously I'm keeping only, 4 to 5 rats at a time, with including their litters, which obviously are getting fed off. And then I have the ASFs, which 25 at a time, that gets reduced over time. And then my rats, which I only have a large portion of those on feeding day, and then they just dwindle over time. So I haven't had any issues with the smell. I'm going to keep doing this, obviously on a small scale when I move into my home, hoping that any kind of smell will be contained to the snake room. Or the garage, which I probably will have them in when it's warm outside. So I will say, anybody who wants to do this, again, this is not for anybody who's really full on trying to breed rodents, obviously. Just for maybe someone who has a small collection of snakes and you want to breed a portion of your own feeders or all of your feeders, but just, curious on either how to get started or whatever. Again, I think that these holding tubs are perfect for rodents. They can keep them long term, short term, or whatever. The most important thing is that your rodents are well fed, watered, and happy, So I always try to separate the males and the females so there's no fighting, no injury or anything like that if I can. But if I know that feeding days are on the corner, there's a lot of males in one tub, I'll keep them as is as long as they're not fighting. If I hear fighting in tubs, I'm separating constantly different males from one another. But originally, I hated rodents before I got into snakes. I did not like rodents at all. And it's just so crazy how just keeping them, you just learn, you just gain a whole different respect for animal life and just these animals, It makes me happy to know that they're eating, that they're watered, that they're well fed, even though they're going to be fed off in a few days or soon, it makes me happy to know that they're well taken care of and that well taken care of rodent or feeder is being fed to animals that I also love. So let me go ahead and get the mouse colony that I have. So I've had these mice for, I want to say around 3 or 4 months now, maybe shorter, but there is you can see like the little babies here that were in the last litter. It was actually my second litter from these females. I grew them up and put them together with a male, and this is the second litter. The first litter didn't do so well. The mamas actually ate all the babies, but they were first time moms, and I was really excited when they laid their first litter, so I was kind of touching on the babies, and I learned that when the mice smell human scent on the babies, especially if they're first time moms, they'll eat their young. This isn't most of the litter. I had to separate most of the young from the moms because they were getting really big. So here is the rest of the litter. I fed off a few today to some of the mousers that I have. There's some food here for them to eat. They are eating at this time. They're about 21 days old, I believe. And I have a top here that has a water bottle. Obviously, if I can get it out. I cut a little grate here, and I use my tin snips to cut a square where a water bottle could fit through. So that works for them until they're fed off. So again, if anybody is like I said, just interested in the idea of breeding on a very small scale, this is a really good, I think, idea or starter process for anybody to try, just to kind of give yourself an idea of whether you would like it. If you want to buy a rodent rack, maybe start off with some tubs before you do that, see how you like the process, how you like the smell. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for entertaining my little makeshift tubs here. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on this modification of these tubs for the purpose of keeping rats and rodents alive for a little longer. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed, and stay tuned for future videos because they are coming. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.